We will never be 100%, but we will be, and our goal is to be over 99.9% in terms of making sure that we've removed the content that violates our policies. We do publish a transparency report so people can understand, and regulators, governments, companies can understand what we're removing. And also how quickly we're removing that content, to your question about how quickly content is distributed on the internet. So if you look at Q3, we removed almost 8 million videos, and 90% of that was removed with automatic flagging. And that's important because it enables us to remove the content extremely quickly. And if you break that down, 76% of them had 10 views or less. And so that shows that we're removing content very quickly before it's able to have that broad distribution.
Well, that right there explains why the channel got banned initially on YouTube. That's right. Susan, whatever the hell her name is, she is proud of the fact that they are able to use their AI or whatever the hell they're using to snuff out content before it gains any traction whatsoever. This is a selling point from her to the World Economic Forum, which is where she gave this totalitarian speech about advancing digital content safety. This is where these yahoos come together and talk about all the wonderful ways they're going to take away your freedoms.
So, I think just to be clear, we are going to keep getting better. Our classifiers.
And by better, they mean worse. By better, they mean more controlling and more totalitarian.
We'll get better. We'll define our policies more tightly. So we'll never be 100%, but I'm hoping that we're 99.9 and that the number of nines just continue to increase in terms of how compliant we are in terms of finding and removing the content that violates our policies.
So what do they mean by compliant? What does she mean by compliant? It's their own standards. So who are they being compliant to? Doesn't that simple statement, that off-the-cuff remark, determine and tell everybody that YouTube are not really in control of YouTube anymore? That Susan here is just a figurehead, just like all the other figureheads, and they're getting their marching orders from somewhere else? Doesn't that just prove it? She's proud of this thing. 99.99999% is what she's talking about being compliant, and she is happy. She is thrilled that they get to do this. How many videos did they say? 8 million? 8 million, was that videos or channels? 3 or 4 of mine among them. So YouTube are now broadcasting to the whole world about how happy they are with how well their censorship is going. If you needed a sign of the times to let you know how fucked we all are, YouTube going to the World Economic Forum to talk about digital content safety. I don't even know what that means. I have absolutely no idea what digital content safety is, but Susan knows, and all these other people she's talking to know. You'll notice she's got the whole library background and all this stuff, very, very well positioned shots here just to give off this feel that she's some sort of, suburban mom and she's out there just trying to protect her family. A little wedding picture in the back here so you don't think she's some sort of psychopath. Typical stuff you'd find in any suburban neighborhood, but I bet you if you tilt this camera to the right or to the left, you're gonna see some shit you've never seen. But that's beside the point. Susan is happy about how many videos they've banned, how many channels they've banned, how much censorship that they've been able to get away with. And she's talking about how this has been done in the last quarter or so. So it's ramping up. She says they're getting better. She says they're getting better. She's proud of the fact that they're getting better. She's happy with the fact that YouTube has turned into a one-stop shop for censorship. And they do not care about how many people they push off their platform because this is not about money anymore. It is strictly about control. One more listen here. Let's just give it one more listen.
On the internet. So if you look at Q3, we removed almost 8 million videos.
8 million videos. She is thrilled with that statistic. This is the sort of thing you broadcast to the whole world. Oh my goodness. All right, keep going, Susie.
In videos. And 90% of that was removed with automatic flagging. And that's
automatic flagging. So AI is getting better. AI is probably what got the first channel banned. It's probably what's going to get the second channel banned. And it's what they're using to advance their so-called digital content safety. But look at this, look at these people here, okay? Just listen to them as they just gather around, and you'll notice they all have kind of similar setups. books in the background. I guess he's not doing it, but all of them with books in the background give off this feel that there's some sort of like well-read, well-educated individuals who know what's best for us. All of this is just stagecraft, man. I mean, it's so fucking obvious now, it's embarrassing.
And our goal is to be over 99.9%.
99.9%. Anyway, I've heard enough of this. This is a crazy bitch alert. If I didn't open with that, I should have opened with that. This is a crazy bitch alert, and I'm calling her a bitch, not because she's a woman, but because she's a bitch, okay? And so are all these other dudes standing around her, and her too. These crazy bitches banned my channel and thousands of others, maybe millions of others. She talks about 8 million. I'm sure they banned more than that. Like, you know, they're just banning people left, right, and center. And what eats at me the most is this, okay? They're sitting around here pretending like they are content creators. They are not content creators, okay? If this was like a CNN or an MSNBC or a BBC or a Fox, and this was the CEO of those networks, and they're talking about all the reporters they've got on their primetime slots and whatnot, I'd have no beef with this. But they're talking about independent people who have made their channel what it is, and here they are sitting in a round table discussing what sort of controls they're gonna implement on something that they do not produce. They do not produce it. They are a platform. They are just a staging ground. It is the independent contractors who come in here and put it on their shittier and shittier website. It is getting shittier every day. And they are continuing to push this agenda, and they pretend in their minds that they are somehow the creative force behind this. They have absolutely no control over any of this, and that they want to give themselves credit. They want to pat themselves on the back for being able to control what other people are doing. This is how fucked up this reset is. They made us stay at home to watch the news, and now they're banning us for talking about the news. When she talks about banning these videos, it is largely people who are just commenting on the news. People who just stare at their televisions like I do and yell at them because of all the stupid nonsense that's getting sent at them every single day, and they ban people for talking about that. These people are soulless. They have absolutely no creativity in them whatsoever. All they have are mechanisms of control, and that's all these people are going to continue to give to us for as long as this nonsense goes on. But for what it's worth, note the like to dislike ratio, which we're going to get to here in a bit about how YouTube are going to snuff that out here pretty soon. The like to dislike ratio is overwhelmingly negative. This video was apparently published back in January, so I do not believe for 1 second that only 13 people have voted for it. And they keep coming in here to scrub the amount of views and scrub the amount of likes and dislikes. They are trying to control the narrative, and they're losing. People are shitting on this video as it deserves to be shit on because they're out here talking about crap. If 51 views, come on, I get more views than that. I don't even try to make that many videos. Anytime this thing keeps going a direction they don't like, they reset it, and here's that word again. They reset their view counts, they reset their thumbs up to thumbs down ratios. They probably go down and scrub the comment section. One person commented on this since January. Really? Really? Bullshit. Bullshit. Okay? This is nonsense. But likes to dislikes, overwhelmingly negative, not a single like on this. And here they are trying to convince everybody that everything is perfectly fine, okay? Everything is perfectly fine, even though overwhelmingly people are downvoting this. She's trying to convince you that most people want this censorship garbage. She is on her so-called, website. This is her website. She didn't make it. She has absolutely no say as to what sort of content gets on there. Otherwise, she just bans whatever she doesn't like and whatever her minions don't like. But she did not invent YouTube. She is not the creative force behind YouTube. Independent creators are. But here she is talking about how she's going to regulate them. And she's been significantly downvoted. Which leads us conveniently to this right here. Okay? YouTube is testing the removal of the dislike counter on videos. That is correct. According to, and who wrote this? The New York Post, okay? The video sharing platform is what they're being called right now, and not some sort of corporate overlord. The video sharing platform said on Wednesday of this last week that some users may find the number of dislikes associated with their content now hidden. All right. So now they're trying to block the amount of people who get downvotes. I'm going to assume it's because Susan keeps getting downvoted every time she comes on here, and so does Joe Biden, and so does all the other people they're trying to shove down our throats that nobody's buying into. But they're going to tell you that they're going to keep the dislike button on there. It's just that, you know, you won't be able to get a proper tally of how many people shit on a video whenever it goes over like a lead balloon. So YouTube is trying to do this. They say it's to foster a more positive environment. You know, that's the sort of shit they come up with when they're trying to get away with their, you know, their corporate BS. They want to foster a more sensitive, more wholesome, more neutral, more loving, more, you know, all of this. And they're going to do that by lying to people, essentially. They're going to lie to people about how many dislikes are on a video, rather than let a person see the honest picture of what the world is and what people feel and what they think and what they want to express. Rather than let people have that, they want to take that away, and it's all in the name of making the world a better place. Sociopathic tendencies. These people are absolute sociopaths. They are nuts. These crazy bitches are absolutely nuts. And we know that this is nonsense because it's already very easy to go into your YouTube studio page and take out the likes and dislikes and the view counters. It is very easy to do that. Every content creator has the ability to do that. So for YouTube to come in and say that they're just gonna like hide the number of dislikes, they're gonna keep the number of likes for the record. So if we were looking at like Susan's video over here that had nothing but dislikes and absolutely no likes whatsoever, I guess you'd just see the like counter as 0 and then you'd see the dislike counter as nothing. They wouldn't have that number there. And they keep scrubbing it, like we said at the beginning. They're scrubbing these numbers. They're scrubbing the comments. They're scrubbing their views. And they want to take it a step further and just block the dislike altogether. And this isn't so much to like really control what people are seeing. This is just to shove it down people's throats a little bit more. Because like we said, you can hide the number of views. You can hide the number of likes and dislikes if you want. They just want to just add that extra layer of we control this and you don't. And that's what all of this is about. All of this nonsense is to protect the crazy bitches of the world like Susan and her friends in that little video. YouTube are experimenting, and by experimenting, they mean this is gonna happen whether you like it or not. This is gonna happen, okay? They say it's testing, they're not testing shit. They decided this forever ago, and now they're just rolling it out very, very slowly by their standards. Opinions are being conditioned out, dissent is being ironed out, they are manufacturing illusions. Because if you take away that dislike counter and you think that, oh, this was nothing but positivity, people just like this and nothing but liked it, because, you know, like, I guess Facebook have never had a dislike button, you know, in the name of cyberbullying or some nonsense. But YouTube, in taking out their dislike button, are conditioning all of us, to the idea that it is wrong to dislike things that they are pushing. I don't even know how this works. Like, I suppose, you know, if it's a video that they don't want on their platform, they'll ban it, so they don't need the dislike button for that feature. And if it's a video they're trying to shove down their throat, like Dirty Joe giving a press conference where he stumbles through all of his words and can't get a single word in, when he's out there falling on a plane, trying to walk up a plane, when he's doing all this, like, they'll be able to hide the number of, like, dislikes when our government's making an absolute embarrassment of themselves, and then they're only going to show you the likes like some sort of, you know, communist propaganda. Everybody likes it, you know, and anybody who doesn't gets silenced. It's going to be a lot easier for them once they get rid of comments and once they get rid of dislike buttons to continue to sell their garbage online, because people are starting to get their news from YouTube and other sources like that, and not from the mainstream news, who have proven to be, let's just say, beyond unreliable at this point. Like, they're not even a joke. They're a joke of a joke. And so YouTube now just want to come in and fill that void, and they want to be the joke. But whatever. Because of this, because of all this dislikes, you find yourself with people like this. This is the new CDC director. What's her name again? Rochelle Walensky. And she had nothing but a doom salad for all of us to eat this week.
I would tell the truth, even if it was not the news we wanted to hear.
Oh, for
now
God's
is one of those times when I have to share the truth, and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script.
Hold on right there. She says she's going to lose the script. Notice her eyes shot right down to whatever she's reading, okay? They even have a little subtitles, so you know exactly what she was reading at that moment in time. And a lot of people have pointed out how she talks about how she's going to go off script, and then she proceeds to read the script verbatim.
And I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom.
Impending doom, people! Impending doom! The new CDC director talks about impending doom.
So much to look forward to, so much promise and potential of where we are, and so much reason for hope. But right now, I'm scared.
I have a lot of reason to be hopeful, but right now I'm shitting my pants, and all of you should be shitting your pants too. Okay, be hopeful, be optimistic, but shit your pants in the process.
I know what it's like as a physician to stand in that patient room, gowned, gloved, masked, shielded, and to be the last person to touch someone else's loved one because their loved one couldn't be there.
Arita believes she's been like making the rounds as a nurse or something in the last year. Is that the is that what they would have you believe about Rochelle? All right, director. Apparently you were in there tending to COVID patients last year. Okay, director, sure, okay.
I know what it's like when you're the physician, when you're the healthcare provider, and you're worried that you don't have the resources to take care of the patients in front of you. I know that feeling of nausea when you read the crisis standards of care and you wonder whether there are going to be enough ventilators to go around.
That doesn't sound scripted at all, talking about feelings of nausea and ventilators and who's going to make that like, oh my goodness, Rochelle.
Who's going to make that choice? And I know what it's like to pull up to your hospital every day and see the extra morgue sitting outside.
Check that out. Her eyes went back right down as she talked about the extra morgue. I'm gonna go off script here. I'm so natural right now.
I didn't know at the time when it would stop. We didn't have the science to tell us.
We didn't have the science to tell us. Oh, but the science has settled since then. And now we can follow the SS to whatever the SS tells us to. The science is settled. Kneel to the SS, right? That's what Rochelle wants us to believe.
We were just scared. We have come such a long way.
No, you just talked about being terrified. You just said right now I'm terrified. There's impending doom. And now you're talking about how you're not scared. Like we used to be scared. You just opened the video by telling us to be scared. Get your script learned. Like this is so embarrassing. Just read the right script, woman. Write a better script.
3 historic scientific breakthrough vaccines, and we are rolling them out so very fast. So I'm speaking today not necessarily as your CDC director, and not only as your CDC director, but as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter, to ask you to just please hold on a little while longer. I so badly want to be done. I know you all so badly want to be done. We are just almost there, but not quite yet.
Yes, so keep the fear going.
And so I'm asking you to just hold on a little longer, to get vaccinated when you can, so that all of those people that we all love will still be here when this pandemic ends.
Oh my God, we are in deep trouble. But finally, we've got a bullshitter who can cry on command, people. Okay, we haven't had one of those since this, what was his name? Like Boehner, John Boehner, his speaker. Boner, I guess is what people used to call him. Obama did it too, right? Remember when Obama was crying about those kids who got gunned down in the kindergarten? And this was probably after he spent his morning signing off on drone strikes that blew up on like playgrounds in Syria and other parts of the Middle East. You know, he has to come out here and, oh, the children. And he's going to go off and kill children later that night. Or, you know, these are the kind of sociopaths you have in front of you telling all this nonsense. But that's okay, though. We salute the best of them. And it's been a while since we've had a really good bullshitter. And I get the feeling that she's a pretty decent bullshitter, okay? This woman right here, Rochelle Walensky, she's going to be big money real quick, all right? She can emote, which is a very important quality for these people. these higher ups who can convey like human emotions and aren't like total robots like the rest of them. Like Fauci's just, he's a dick. So I could see her stepping into his spot if he can't sell the message as well as she can. So she can emote, and she looks like a person of color, the POCs. She's not completely white, so everyone's gonna go for that. And really, that's the only criteria you need to succeed in modern politics, all right? Just look at AOC. You get extra points if you're attractive, unlike those crusty motherfuckers who used to tell us about, like, the Gulf of Tonkin and Vietnam and passports that survived, like, a vaporizing heat in 9/11 or WMDs in Iraq or countless other fictions. You get extra point if you look a little bit better, all right? We've come a long way from the Donald Rumsfelds of the world to people like her and AOC. So the future looks cuter if nothing else. It's going to be a lot deadlier, though. These people are as dangerous as they look. But these folks don't even know what lie to sell you half the time, right? Because she's out here talking about impending doom, and then later on, she's talking about how people who get vaccinated don't carry the virus, So why is she feeling an impending doom? Why is she feeling scared? Why is she, as a wife, as a mom, as a whatever? She's out here telling people, and who was this she was talking to? MSNBC. Of course it was fucking MSNBC. During an MSNBC interview with Rachel Maddow, Rachel Maddow, that bastion of truth, Walensky said, our data from the CDC today suggests that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but also in real-world data. So why was she feeling that sense of impending doom? You know what? It doesn't really matter, because I'm not sure where she's getting her data from, because they love throwing that word around, data. Everyone loves their data. Well, the data apparently shows that out in one state, this is just in Washington, about 1 million people got vaccinated, and 100 of them have gotten COVID-19. I'm not entirely sure how they landed on that 100. Like, are we talking about, like, I assume this is like serious COVID, because if it was asymptomatic, you're not getting tested. I've read enough testimonials from people who got the shot and felt a little crazy the week afterwards, felt a little bit off, and they were not allowed to get a COVID vaccine. I think that's part of the requirement, because they think the vaccine's going to pick up, or the test is going to pick up on the vaccine. So anybody who's gotten the shot isn't really allowed to get tested for a period of time. So these 100 must have been pretty fucked up for them to test them and say, okay, all right, this is COVID. But doesn't this make you feel safer? She's out here telling everybody that, once you get this thing, you're not going to get sick and you're not going to pass it off. Granted, 100 out of 1.2 million people is not, it's statistically very small. But that's just the ones they know about and that they're willing to tell us about. The overall guesses here is that, like as we've suspected for a long time, they don't really know if this thing works or not. I bet you they couldn't tell you why these 100 people got it. They could not tell you why. And this is just one state. Think about the whole world. They have vaccinated a good chunk of the world right now. Think of how many people have been vaccinated and still caught this thing that's supposedly, completely protected by the vaccine. Thing that's so great that they're having people at Walmart and probably Applebee's soon stick it into your arms. And they call it real-world data, and I bet like much of the trials that we were trying to sift through back in November, December from all the videos that have now been banned, I bet from all of that so-called real-world data, you're not going to find a hell of a lot of good detail that you can sink your teeth into, because all of this is so very vague. But you can come up with 100 people, and 100 people get the virus, then you know that maybe something's not going so hot, everybody. Maybe something's not going as well as they thought, but that doesn't matter. Okay? Because now, if you're fully vaccinated, you can travel at low risk to yourself. And that's the message they're trying to send out so that everybody goes out and gets their shot, okay? The CDC have said as of today, this is Friday, as of today, that this is a so-called highly anticipated update. Ooh, fully vaccinated people can travel at low risk to themselves. And it's Rochelle who said it again, so I don't know where her doom mongering has gone from Monday, but by Friday, it was nothing but sunshine and rainbows, because you could travel if you've been vaccinated, despite how terrified she was on Monday. She said that you can do, international travel, local travel, but you must get tested prior to your travel. Okay, this vaccine is so great. It's going to protect you from getting sick. You're going to not be able to spread COVID because the real world data told you so. But you know what? Before you get on a plane and before you get off the plane, you still have to be tested but for COVID even if you've been vaccinated, because that's how effective this fucking thing is. Is your head spinning yet? Because mine is. Mine is. And they say that they consider you fully vaccinated 2 weeks after you've received the last of your required doses. All right, so I guess if it's a Johnson & Johnson, you get the one, and 2 weeks later you're done. If it's Moderna and Pfizer, you know, you get your second shot. Lord knows how many months after your first shot, because I hear people are on some kind of weird schedules. That first they said that you have to get your second shot 15 days after your first shot, and now it's like, oh, you can wait a month, you can wait 2 months, you can wait 3 months, whatever it is. They're just making this stuff up as they go, just like everything else. Just like everything else. But their updated guidance is just now talking about how if you are fully vaccinated in 2 weeks after your fully vaccination, you can travel, but only if you're tested. And only if you're tested. And lots of countries are now rolling out their passports, which we're going to get to here in a second. But they're rolling out the passports and they're rolling out the so-called, what do you call it, quarantine guidelines. When you land in a certain place, you got to be quarantined if you go to certain countries. You know, the countries that are so-called following the science. If you're following the science, you're going to lock up the tourists who come to your country. And I'll bet you over time they're going to make it easier for people who've been vaccinated to travel and harder for people who haven't been vaccinated. So this testing that's currently being applied to everybody and this whole mask thing that's currently being applied to everybody, expect over time that they're going to ease that for people who've been vaccinated, even when they find out that people who've been vaccinated can still catch this thing. They're making money hand over fist. They've got us exactly where they want it. That sniper scope is trained right on everybody. And now they're starting to release these little bit of freedoms that aren't really freedoms, okay? The CDC has no right to tell you when you're going to travel or not, for fuck's sake. But in the interim, they're going to tell everybody that whether you've been vaccinated or not, you're still going to get your test, you're still going to get quarantined, because this vaccine just works that well. It works that well, people. It works that well, and Rochelle is going to tell you that you can have a little bit of freedom this summer to travel and do different things, only if you've been vaccinated. But if you haven't, oh well. Oh well. I'm going to pause on this vaccine talk. We're not completely done with it, but I want to just point out a little study I found here on the Wall Street Journal of all places. They're talking about now, and you're getting to see this a bit more in the mainstream media. I don't know if this is just part of the con or if it's just something that they're having a harder time getting to hide, but the Wuhan Research Center that they've had, you know, was a centerpiece of this whole story from the beginning. You know, the bat narrative isn't holding up. This idea that some dude, you know, got some sort of bat in the wild and he cooked it and he made bat soup and he ate it and then he started like feeling a little respiratory illness a few days later and then he somehow infected the whole world with it. That, for whatever reason, I don't know why, you know, maybe because it's bullshit, but for whatever reason that story isn't holding up. And now there's a lot more emphasis on the lab out in Wuhan. This lab that so many American scientists know so much about because they're the ones who help do a lot of crazy shit out there. But they're starting to, the mainstream at least, they're starting to come around to the idea that this illness was manufactured in a lab. And that it is possible that this lab was performing what is known as gain of function research. What does that mean? That means that for everything you hit the research that you're doing, the viral component in the research that you're doing, for everything that you try to do to snuff it out, it only makes it stronger. Gain of function research is what your typical mad scientist would be trying to do when they design the perfect bioweapon. So, if it is true, and I suspect that they've mostly kept this out of the local, you know, the mainstream news for a while, even though it's getting harder to keep it out. If this is true, if gain of function is a real thing, then we are in real big trouble, because this headline about 100 people who still got it after the vaccine, that's probably just the first wave, because there's probably more. There's a good chance that there's more. But if these lab theories are spot on and this virus is part of, you know, gain of function research, and if it is, we're in deep trouble. We're in deep trouble, because everything they're doing right now, from lockdowns to these vaccines, will only make it stronger. If this is true, expect this virus to start racking up the sort of body counts that they were talking about a year ago. Back when they said it's going to kill 2% of people, double that, triple that, okay? Maybe even 5% in the not too distant future. Because they are making it stronger with all this shit that they're pumping into people's bodies. If it's true, I would like to believe that all of this is just some, hopped up, overhyped mess, and these vaccines aren't really doing anything to people because most people's immune systems are just going to fight off these vaccines in much the same way that they're going to fight off the virus that they're there to protect against, and that after a while all this is just going to fizzle out. That's the hopeful scenario. But if this is true about gain-of-function research, this could get very bad. This could get very, very, very bad in only a very short amount of time, and everything they're doing right now is only going to make it worse, which a part of me is starting to think, is there a chance that this is what's been happening all along? Is there a chance that they want to amplify this research? Is there a chance that they're just trying to, this is a real-world experiment using these vaccines that people are lining up to get? They're getting all this so-called real-world data. Is that real-world data just telling them how quickly the virus is evolving, or is it telling them how quickly it can be snuffed out? There's so much about this that is still unknown. And they're out there somehow, they have a vaccine for something they haven't fully grasped yet. And it should worry everybody if it has absolutely anything to do with gain of function. But that's not going to stop these people from running around the country right now telling everybody to get this thing, okay? It's not going to stop them, and we're going to get to this little bit here. We're going to get to this little story here about the Amish in just 2 seconds. But first, we got to pay lip service to Dirty Joe, because the Biden administration are helping to administer some sort of vax passports. Now, CNN put it in vague terms about helping to develop standards to prove vaccinations. Standards to prove vaccinations. Let that sink into your head. If you had said this a year ago, you're getting banned off of YouTube and wherever the fuck. And now it's like in your local news. The Biden administration is working on creating a set of standards for people who prove that they've been vaccinated against COVID-19. How do you prove it? Well, I'm sure Israel are going to tell us how with their special green passes, but eventually the officials on CNN are talking about how they're in the planning stages, and much like this whole, YouTube testing, getting rid of the dislike button, they're not planning shit, they're not testing shit, it's already been decided. It was decided forever ago, probably even before COVID-19 for all we know, okay? They have had this in the pipeline forever, and vaccine passports, you're starting to hear that term more and more now. Vaccine passports are coming to a town near you, and they're talking about how this could be the key to return to normalcy by the end of the year. All they got to do is roll out their vaccine pass, and you can return to normalcy. These are the people running around the country right now while Biden's got his ass in the air while he's falling up the stairs of Air Force One. These are the people who are selling the message, okay? They are trying at this moment in time to do pretty much what they've done in Israel in the last month or so, in creating a two-tier society, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. This will be the common theme here. They've already been able to divide people on gender, on race, on you name it, and now they're going to be able to divide you based on your health status or lack thereof, because this is going to define things for years to come. You're going to be doing the most mundane things. I don't care what it is. You could be going to a wedding, okay? You'll be going to a wedding, and they'll have a little section that says, all right, here. Right here is the friends of the bride to the left, and then the friends of the groom to the right. Unvaccinated friends of the bride, you guys can head on down to the basement or stand outside like the mongrels that you are. You just wait. It's coming. It's coming. It's already here in some spots. How many people are out there talking about how they're not going to open their venues to unvaccinated people? How many concert festivals are starting to come out talking about how they're going to make sure that the people who attend their concerts have to be vaccinated or attend their boxing events? You got boxers right now like, Jamal Charlo or whoever, talking about how they're not going to fight somebody unless they're vaccinated. You're creating a two-tier society. It's coming. Israel showed everybody the way. You can't get into a gym there or get into a supermarket or go and, do very general things unless you've been vaccinated, and they have the right to stop you from entering places if you haven't been vaccinated. So we're going to follow Israel's lead when it comes to how to treat your neighbors, because they know all about how to treat their neighbors. It's coming, people. It's already here. But here's the scary part, okay? And you know, all of this is just like, we've known this is coming. This is not a surprise. We've talked about it forever. Lots of people have been talking about it forever. This is like the worst kept secret in the world, and it's not even a secret. They've known from day one that they were going to get here. You just weren't allowed to say it out loud until now. But if this vaccine says what it says it does, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I do mean devil here. Let's assume for a second that this thing works, all right? If by some miracle this vaccine works and these people fell ass backwards into this thing, like Biden trying to get into the presidency, he just stumbled into that, right? Okay, if this thing works, God help us all. If this vaccine is actually able to stop people from catching and spreading COVID, and that it puts an end to all of this, and that's the narrative that they tell people, in my opinion, if that were to happen, that will prove that there was really nothing there in the first place. So I'm just, you know, just stating that for the record. I'm just going to assume that that's what it is. If this crap works, that the lockdowns and the vaccines somehow get rid of a virus, you know, then I'm going to believe that it was never what they said it was in the first place, and it was all a con, which is kind of what we think. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think this thing is here to stay. Whole other story. But if by some miracle they are proven right, and that if you vaccinate the entire world against something 4 months after you cooked it up in a lab in God knows where, okay, this thing was not here like 6 months ago. It wasn't really here. And now it's getting rolled out by the millions and the millions and the millions every day. I right now know more people who have been vaccinated than those who haven't, and I cannot wrap my head around it. I cannot wrap my head around how many people have actually queued up to get this thing. They are lining up for days to get this thing. You'd think that they were selling out some sort of PlayStation or some shit. If this works, if COVID is eradicated, and somehow the thought settles in their brain that you can cook up medicines and treatments and vaccines in a handful of months and administer that to the entire world by forcing it on them for a variety of reasons, that you can inject the entire planet with something that didn't exist a year ago. If it works, we are in real big trouble. And if it doesn't work, and this is some sort of gain of function theory, and that this is going to become the virus that they've told us that it is, then we are in real big trouble. I feel like we're in real big trouble either way. But I think we're in more trouble if it works. Because if these people just start rolling this stuff out because, hey, it worked for COVID, let's do it for everything else. And they get people inoculated every couple of months for some new shit. We're in big trouble. Big trouble. Meanwhile, the only thing that actually does work, which was the thing that I pulled up here a second ago, the Amish in Pennsylvania and probably in other parts of the world have become the first community in the United States to reach herd immunity against COVID-19 after 90% of their households got infected last year. 90%. All right? Majority, 9 out of 10 people in this community have apparently, allegedly, been infected with COVID. You'd think that this would have been on the news if it turned out to be like the biggest death toll in the whole country. Like if you know, the Amish were wiped out by this thing, you know that would have been on your news every single day. And it's kind of one of the points we were making this time last year when the lockdowns first started. And all we could do was really look at the homeless people. Be like, hey, what's going on with them? Turns out nothing. There's nothing going on with the homeless people. They were not dropping like flies for this thing that they had shut down the whole world for. And the Amish are another outlier. Just like the homeless people, they're another thing that prove that if you just let things happen the way they're supposed to happen, if you just let nature do what it always does, assuming this thing is what they say it is, assuming it's real, if you just let nature do what it's supposed to do, then sooner or later you'll all be okay. No vaccines, no mandates, no shutdowns. These folks, they kept going to church. They kept meeting in their communities. They kept doing whatever it is that they always do. A lot of them caught it, they beat it, and now they got herd immunity. Who knows how many of them died from it? Who knows? But they've got herd immunity. The country doesn't have herd immunity. They have vaccinated 100 million people in America, apparently. I have trouble believing that number, but then again, I don't know. It's probably more than that. I don't doubt that number at all now. Now that I know how many people have actually queued up to get this thing, 100 million seems a little bit on the light side now that I think about it. But the Amish, 90% of them have herd immunity, no vaccines, no nothing. This is the only thing that's worked. It's the only thing that was ever gonna work, is to have life as usual. You know that joke about how comedians can't offend the Amish on TV because they don't own TVs? Well, take that and apply it to everything else. They are immune. They have been vaccinated from stupidity. They have been vaccinated from societal madness that's been going on for the last year. The Amish, as it turns out, are the only people in the United States who know how to beat COVID, and the reason they beat COVID was by not thinking about and constructing their entire lives around COVID. That's how this works. Don't let it control you. Don't let it dictate your life. Don't let it keep you away from the people that you love and the things that you love. Carry on as best as you can, and just like anything else, death can find you wherever it finds you. They know that, and apparently the rest of the world doesn't know that, and they have herd immunity. I wonder how it's going to go when they try to force the vaccine on the Amish. They probably won't get away with it. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But this thing is so absurd and so dumb, and it's taken over the world. It's taken over the whole world. We got vaccine passports coming. Biden's working on the vaccine passports to make sure that everybody is safe and healthy and protected from themselves. And meanwhile, the one thing they should have done was nothing. For the one time they should have done nothing, they did nothing. Because the Amish prove that you didn't need to do anything at all. But all of this is insane. Not only do they want to vaccinate everybody and prevent you from being able to get places if you're not vaccinated to avoid this doom machine that's going to swallow us whole. They want you to be vaccinated to avoid this pending doom. And now it's not enough that you get vaccinated. Now you got to get your pet vaccinated sooner rather than later, because the Russians have cooked up the world's first COVID vaccine for animals. Animals. Fido, Mr. Whiskers, all of them. They can now get a shot. The vaccine can last about 6 months and can prevent further mutations of the virus. All right? I assume everybody who reads this story, this is from US News, but it's in a lot of other places, and it's being given, the usual Russians, evil Russians. The Russians are in on this just like everybody else. Like, the scam is global. There are no good sides left in this anymore, but the Russians have gotten in on this scam, okay? And now they want you to get your pets vaccinated. And you have to ask the question of how many people on Earth got COVID from their pets and died. Like, someone's cat went to a Trump rally or something and got sick and brought it home and killed grandma. So now Mr. Whiskers has to get a shot of this experimental cocktail that may or may not work. Like, we just learned it from that little excerpt out in Washington. It doesn't really work that well. At least not, it's not fully effective. And now you're going to introduce it to your pets. How do you test, are you going to have to get your pets tested for COVID-19? How does this work exactly? Like, this is such a cute animal too, locked up in a cage. I hope this wasn't part of the Vax trials, but my God, we destroy nature, we kill animals, we kill people, we contaminate the world with endless toxins like this nonsense, and then we sit back and pat ourselves on the back for making the world a safer place. This is all so absurd and so insane. The thing with COVID and this reset is that majority of people think this is insane. All right? Majority of people, I believe, think this is insane. Catch anyone in a one-to-one conversation with their guard down, and they'll tell you that this stuff is absurd, if not criminal. Stick those people who are out there touting this nonsense on Facebook and talking about how they got their shot and now they're probably going to go and get their Krispy Kreme donut because they got their vaccine, and now you get a free donut with your Vax card. You stick those people in a one-on-one setting, and you just have an honest conversation with them. I assure you that a lot of them are going to come around to the idea that this is weird and this is dumb. Stick those people in Facebook out into just like these one-on-one settings. And, you know, once you put them on these social media platforms, they have to play the part of the good German really well. Now, there's that joke going around that, you know, you have an opinion on Facebook and then you have an opinion on your WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is more personal and more hidden, and the whole world doesn't get to see what you're talking about on WhatsApp. But on Facebook, where you announce it to everybody and their grandma, you have to hold up a certain image of yourself and of others. People feel like they can express themselves in quiet spaces, but you bring in your social media and your work settings and all this other stuff, and all of that goes to hell. What does that tell you, if not that this is an illusion? The whole world is a stage right now, and the stage just keeps getting bigger and more pronounced, and we're all playing a part. This is a play. This is a play. The pet vaxes, this headline you're seeing right now about pet vaxes, that just about proves it. How stupid is this? How stupid could this get? It's all theater. Just like Rand Paul was telling Fauci about his double mask after he got his vaccine. It's theater. And now we've got masks to help us play our characters even better. Like those old Greek plays. Put on the visage of whoever you want on your face and you get to be whoever you want. Well, now you get to be the responsible citizen by putting on a mask. And the scary part, like we've said, whether it's gain of function or it's something else, all of these things we're doing are going to harm civilization in ways we cannot even comprehend yet. We are at the beginning of the story. This is chapter 1. It's been a year of COVID, hasn't been a year of the vaccine. It's only been a handful of months of the vaccine. They're already talking about passports. They're already talking about all this other stuff. And the only way this works is if we all sell it. We all have to sell it. This, as I have said before, is the new gospel. COVID is the new god of this world. People have to talk about this thing all the time. And I feel bad for even talking about it because I'm giving it more life and more energy. I am making this Hydra even stronger than it already is. I am making this thing stick by talking about it because that's what people have to do now. It doesn't matter what topic you're on, who you're talking to, what the subject of conversation is. In some ways or another, it always bridges back to COVID because COVID is the new gospel. There's a scheme going on, and that is to instill people with as much fear as you can. You have to preach the new gospel by selling more fear to people. And that's how little cat here is going to end up getting a vaccine for something that it probably has virtually no risk of catching. How many pets have died of COVID, and how many people have died from COVID that they caught from their pets? Before you develop a vaccine for your pets, surely you would have answered that question. It's a carnival of stupid. And the thing is, there's not that much of a difference between this Vax for Pets and Rochelle telling everybody about how terrified she is. There's not a world of difference between those two things because both of those things are built off of statistical noise. They're cooking up numbers every single day to make this doom machine stronger. This vaccine is a $1 trillion industry now. Trillion with a T. They're going to tell you it's a billion, but it's not a billion. It's $1 trillion. They have billions of doses floating around out there. Lord knows how much of these doses, how much each of these doses cost to produce, to make, to ship, to distribute, to instill into people's arms, to treat them if something goes sideways after they get it. To put it on TV. That COVID relief thing that they passed, there was $1 billion in there. $1 billion with a B towards, what was the term they used? Vaccine confidence, I think is the term they used. I'll have to dig that up here. Found it. Here it is. Straight from, who are these people? The KFF. The Kaiser Institute as something or other. There is $1 billion in Section 2302 of the stimulus the thingy that just passed, that there will be vaccine confidence, information, and education activities. They need $1 billion to sell you this thing. It's so great, but they still have to spend $1 billion to convince you about it. And that's just the beginning. That is just the beginning. I mean, we're in cloud cuckoo land, and it keeps getting kookier and kookier. They're gonna vaccinate your pets. They're gonna vaccinate you. How many pets, really? How many pets have gotten this thing and died from it or spread it or whatever? Remember those minks that they had to kill in Denmark? All of those minks. I wonder if that actually happened. I'm sure it did. You know, animal genocide. Wiped them all out. You gotta wonder. You just gotta wonder. This has been going on for a while now, but there's just so much to cover. There's so much ground to cover, and they're gonna keep making it crazier. I'll bet you they're gonna roll out more nonsense over the weekend, and more nonsense at the start of the week, and more nonsense every single day. They're gonna numb you to all of this nonsense. Pet vaxes. Doom and gloom. And if you talk about it, you get banned, or censored, or any of the other things they want to do to make sure that the world stays exactly the way it is. But this is madness. Absolute madness. Everybody knows this is insane. Even the ones queuing up to get this shot know it's insane. We all know it's insane. But like any good communist or totalitarian empire, you stifle your opinions when you're out in public. And then when you're one-on-one with someone, you let your guard down just that little bit. And you let people know that this is wrong. I hope out there somewhere that you're able to get somebody to just speak their truth, to speak about how absurd all of this is. There's so many people who are just marching along with this. They have absolutely no idea that the reason they are in the bind that they are in is because they keep listening to all the nonsense that's being fed to them. They don't want to put two and two together. The reason you are locked down and miserable is because you agreed to be locked down and miserable. That's all it is. Compliance is all they need for now. And soon, they're going to have a lot more. But you know what? You know what? This virus that they keep talking about, this horrible thing that's going to kill so many people, billions upon billions upon billions of people, if they keep this up, they're going to get their wish. And deep down, you gotta wonder if that was the point of this all along. We're only in chapter 1.